I know what our episode is partially going to be about today. And I was just about to crack open this this bottle of water, and now I'm like, don't do it. Don't do it. Because of the microplastics.
Microplastics. So we've read microplastics in water, microplastics in food. The one, now I draw the line, the headline is Microplastics Discovery in Penises Raises Erectile Dysfunction.
Hello.
And I said, now I'm
really?
there.
No, really?
The problem is microplastics are all around us in our food, in our water, even in our air. We'll get to that at some point. We'll talk about how much we're breathing in that's microparticles. However much we ingest varies significantly depending on our location and where we live and the toxicity, et cetera. So it's interesting that this is coming out now. I wanted to get somebody who's really well-versed in this, in microplastics, et cetera, and in safe food safety. But in looking for this, and I take it very seriously when we book our guests, the cool thing about Dr. James Rogers is not only is he a doctorate in microbiology, but he's with Consumer Reports, the director of food safety and research and testing. And what I love about Consumer Reports is they're not beholden to anybody. They buy their own product, they test their own product. So it's not like they have to have research.
Right, there's no agenda.
There's no agenda,
right.
Which is what I love about it. Normally, let's bring him on, unless you've got something else you want to talk about before we bring him on. Usually we talk about stuff a bit. I am getting a little concerned now environmentally about what's out there.
Okay.
Also, when I always love...
2 weeks ago when we were talking to Mike Rowe, you were fine. Life was good.
Being oblivious is a good thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
because when you started tackling stuff, well, you and I, we're best friends. We've had a relationship for over 30 years. And what's funny is we'll call each other and it starts out with an assault. Right?
We now answer the phone going, what?
What? Or
I'll call you, you'll pick up and go, hello, and I'll go, what? What do you want?
Or on the machine, it's where can you possibly
what
be?
are you doing?
And then we go into the joy and love of this or whatever we're talking about. And then we always end with the world's a world problem.
Right.
So that we guarantee that we're off the phone and saying goodbye to each other.
And upset.
On a downer. And upset. So it's hard doing the show because we hope to. The biggest compliment, and I'm very serious about it. You had a friend, a good close friend of yours, who said, "God, I listened to some episodes, and I learned a lot, and I laughed." If we can do that, that's really cool. And we try and get on really good people.
And we're also, we talk about some serious stuff, but we try to do it with light,
hope,
light,
and some hope to it.
Because there's some serious stuff that comes up.
But we always look for credible people. We have Dr. James Rogers with us. And how are you, Doctor? Or James? Or Mr. Rogers?
Mr. Rogers.
Which takes on a whole new tone when you say it that way.
I've heard that my entire life.
I'm sorry. We're morons.
Yeah.
As you can see, we're idiots. But I love that you're with Consumer Reports. And let's talk about that for a second. And I usually don't do a lot of pre-interviews, but I wanted to meet you ahead of time. It is really cool. And I said to you, when you walk down the hallway there, are you opening doors and the guy's on a toilet going, testing right now? Another guy's punching a mattress. Another guy's punching a mattress. I mean, you guys...
Is it like remember in I think it was Bananas, Woody Allen's character is a product tester and he's on an exercise bike that goes back and forth to the desk and he picks up a phone. And I always figure that's what it's like at Consumer Reports.
Does it look...
Trying out these crazy things.
Anything like that?
Well, we have specific labs for specific testing. So like if you wanted to go to the cell phone lab, you could go in there and you could watch them drop the cell phones from a certain height. You could watch them submerge it into water.
Uh-huh.
You could get the hammer that hits the glass to see how many times it takes to crack the glass. And then you can go to the TV lab and you'll see all these TVs lined up with the same patterns to test color fidelity and sound and all that. So yes, each individual lab has its own individual product testing, and you can just wander in and out and see what they're doing at that time.
So in your area of expertise, we're hearing about plastics in water, in food, in particulates in air. Can you give us some background? Because I haven't been able to find out just how dangerous it is, and I couldn't find a metric, and I don't know if there is a metric. But do we know how bad that is and what they're trying to do about particulates in our food and our water?
Well, we have not tested microplastics ourselves. What we tested were the plasticizer chemicals that are used to make plastic.
Right.
But there are connected and interrelated. So, for instance, microplastics refer to very small pieces of plastic that will shear off of a water bottle,
Right.
of a plastic container during use. They're small, there's microplastics and there are nanoplastics that are even smaller. And if they get in the water, if they get in the food, you consume that and then they accumulate in the body. So there's the potential for there to be a problem because those little pieces of plastic could let these plasticizer chemicals out, which have been associated with endocrine disruption, etc., cancer, high blood pressure.
Right.
But we don't know, at least in the data that I've seen, to say that there is a very strong connection between the presence of these plastics in your body and an actual public health problem or a health problem.
Mm.
I think the data and the information is being collected, but I haven't seen where it's been proven that yes, this is a problem. But
So it's
more
still early.
importantly, exactly what the problem is.
My wife, who is really, really concerned about this, because I guess there's been a flurry of new articles and new research that are being released about these kinds of micro and nanoplastics. So even things like we have a series of little dishes and pots that are designed to go into a microwave. They're very hard. You don't even think of them as plastic. They're almost like ceramic plastic. But one of the articles said, yeah, don't do that because every time you microwave it, you're releasing some of this chemical into the...
Yes.
Oh, man.
So in our article, we talked about do not microwave anything in plastic. In fact, in my house, we got rid of those Chinese takeout containers, all that. We replaced it all with glass because of that exact problem, because the heat releases it into your food. So.
Okay, so I mean, I don't know. I know this is not necessarily where you guys would go to follow up, but why? We know that plastic and plastic waste, and now these microscopic bits of plastic getting into our food chain, getting into our systems. Why is there not, or is there a push to start really eliminating and replacing plastics? It doesn't seem to be a net positive for the world. It was a consumer positive for a long time, but now it seems to be a destructive element for the entire planet. So why is there no global push to get rid of this stuff?
Well, I think there is. For instance, in Maryland, where I live, they have banned the use of plastic bags in the grocery store.
Right.
And so there are different small movements, mostly by advocates that are concerned about this problem. But there has not been a worldwide push or a federal regulatory push. It's more local. You have to understand that if you get rid of plastics, what are you going to use? It's going to end up being metal or glass or something else that can be shown not to cause these problems.
Right.
The expense is going to go up. The fragility might go up. The weight's going to go up. When you're shipping food, imagine shipping it in a plastic bag versus a glass container and what the weight is going to be. So there are a lot of things that have to be resolved. But I would propose that there are some people that are pushing back against our use of plastic and trying to decrease it in maybe small amounts, but they're trying.
Wow. Yeah. And plastic, where else? I know that these plasticine that you've done, what are some of the stuff that you've studied that we would be shocked about or shocked to hear or surprised to hear?
So what we did is we did the testing for plasticizers in food. And so we went to the grocery store, we bought 85 different types of foods, and we tested them for phthalates, which is one of the plasticizer chemicals, and bisphenols, which is the second one. And this is a repeat of food testing we did about 7 years ago. And so some of the things we found is that every product we tested had phthalates in it at some certain levels. Okay. Some of the products that you may not expect to have phthalates, such as organic products, will have high amounts of phthalates in it. Fried foods usually has a lot of phthalates, and so we advocate that you don't eat as much fried foods. Fast food had a lot of phthalates in it, so we suggest you reduce the amount of fast food that you eat. There was one product that was organic that had the highest amount of phthalates in everything that we tested. And so, what we said in the article toward the end is we can't tell you how to avoid these chemicals, but we can tell you how to reduce your exposure by what foods you eat. So, a more natural diet, more fresh fruits and vegetables, that type of thing. And then, as if you read the article, we also are asking people to help us advocate for removing these chemicals from the food source. And so we're asking our Food and Drug Administration to ban the use of these chemicals in anything that touches our food. So the belts, the tubing in manufacturing, plasticware, the plastic that we store the food in. Let's get rid of it. Let's ban these chemicals and get rid of it.
And some of them are really, if I'm remembering correctly, some of them are really not what you expected. Like you open a tin can, you go, oh, a tin can of soup, and you go, oh, I'm good. I opened a tin can of soup, but the liner inside the can, which I wouldn't even think of, or inside a milk carton, same kind of thing. And it's
check out the Consumer Reports article. You will be shocked to see the volume of food from the supermarket and fast food that has. And by the way, can't you do also a push to spell phthalates and stuff different, like it looks? It's PTHALTHBLATE. There's nothing bufferol. It's all spelled.
Oh, you think the reason we're not going after it is we can't spell it? I can't report it to my representative because I can't spell it.
There's an extra PH and everything just for blanks and giggles. So what are some of the worst of it? What have you cut out? I'm curious what you've cut out food wise because you just went. It's got high phthalates in it.
Well, I don't eat that much fast food. I mean, if I eat something, I might eat something like Chick-fil-A sandwich or that. Fried foods, I have to admit that's a little bit harder for me to resist. And having the wife that I have, we have a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables in our home that form the basis of, a lot of our food. And so it's just trying to eat fresher, less processed, less packaged. And then I already mentioned about how to remove the plastic from anything that touches food. So use silicone utensils in your home, wood, stainless steel, get rid of the plastic spatulas and all the rest of that.
Today. It's all out today. It's all out today.
James, I'm confused. What in the frying process adds these chemicals to the food?
Well, it's not clear, but it's possible that there's these plasticizers somehow in the oil that you're using to actually fry it.
Yeah.
And that just makes it, come up to the surface and easier to consume.
So it's not
it's really a theory.
I see. So it's not like just heating a normal cooking oil will create a chemical change of some kind. It's just that somehow it's getting into the processing system.
Yeah. Well, what we did is when we looked at all the types of foods, fried foods was one of the ones that had higher amount of phthalates.
Wow.
Now, there was some good news. The bisphenols, which is another category of plasticizers, they actually were less than when we tested 7 years ago. And so that suggested to us that if these manufacturers want to make a difference, they can, because not all the phthalates, for instance, were found in every food, and there were lower levels. So someone's doing something better than others of trying to keep these chemicals out of the food.
But you don't know what incentivized them to turn down the bisphenol rate, right? You don't know what. Usually industry is motivated by money.
One of them was that the FDA banned bisphenol A from baby water bottles or baby bottles, right? And so that was a start to actually ban these products from food contact surfaces such as baby bottles. But it kind of stopped there. And so we would want them to do the same thing with phthalates.
Let's jump to something else. Raw milk. There's a push. There's a big raw milk push, and based on what we're saying here, it sounds like it would be healthier. It'd be better for you potentially. But then on the other hand, I'm thinking, aren't you getting rid in the pasteurization process of stuff that is problematic for people? So what can we look at there?
Well, there's a couple things. We advocated that consumers avoid raw milk because if you look at the Center for Disease Control data, on a per capita basis in consumption, you get sicker, quicker, faster with raw milk than any other food because it has the potential of having different harmful bacteria in it. So we came out against drinking raw milk in support of the CDC. Now, there are raw milk advocates, as you noted, that say when you pasteurize the milk, you change it nutritionally or something. There's no data that I've seen that says that's true. So we have advocated for avoid raw milk because you want to avoid these diseases. Now, what you may have seen in the news recently is that the highly pathogenic avian influenza or bird flu, it has jumped from birds into cattle and into dairy cows, and they've actually detected this virus in cow's milk. How do you prevent that from being a problem? You pasteurize your milk. And so pasteurization is the answer to not only these traditional harmful bacteria, but also this new virus that has jumped from birds into cattle, so that when we drink our milk, as long as it's pasteurized, you're okay.
The other one that really got me was the articles that popped up about decaf coffee. The decaf could potentially be dangerous because they take the beans and soak them in a chemical to reduce the caffeination and take it down and make it more decaf. And now again, it's maybe the aspect is always could be dangerous. And there are tens of millions of decaf drinkers every day. How far along are we in that, in decaf or no decaf?
Well, one of the points I'd like to make is that when you say maybe, when we're talking about chemical contamination of food, we're talking about a long-term type of effect, because usually the chemicals are in such a low amount that it's kind of hard to directly associate them with a specific disease such as cancer or high blood pressure. So the story that you're talking about, when they say maybe, it's because it's really difficult to associate that chemical with specific syndromes in people, but there is some clinical evidence to do that. I have not seen any movement to ban that chemical in the process of decaffeinating coffee. So again, you have to consider the risk that is your exposure to this chemical harmful enough or scary enough to make you change to some type of other coffee to avoid that chemical, even though as you're trying to avoid the caffeine. So it's consumer choices.
You know, as I'm listening to you, I'm really wondering, because as Peter and I joke all the time, I am a big believer in ignorance is bliss. How do you know so much about how everything can hurt us, kill us, spin out of control? I mean, do you feel you are a little more existentially cautious or worried about using the day-to-day things we all consume or use in some way than perhaps someone as blissfully ignorant as I would be?
Well, let me give you an example. I have a blended family of 5 kids, and they hate to hear when I'm about to report something about food because it's always bad news.
Right.
And there's nothing that we can eat. Like my son, he works out a lot, and we're talking about testing protein powders.
Yeah.
And either he wants me to test what he uses or he doesn't, because he may not want the bad news about it. I think the way that I think about it is I'm going to do the best that I can with the knowledge that I have. Like I said, I've replaced all my bowls and using glass. We have some plastic glasses that's we're out on the deck so they don't break and shatter.
Yep.
We've replaced our utensils with silicone. I'm going to do the best that I can within my budget and what I can actually change. Now, when I go out to dinner, I know I don't have any control over how they fix my food or store my food. So I have to accept, okay, I'm going to take one. But at least when I eat at home, I try to do as much as I can. I don't try to think about it too much. When I worked for the Department of Ag, I actually went to a slaughterhouse. And sometimes that will turn you off from eating meat if you actually watch the entire process.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I like steak too much. So, okay. So that's kind of how I try to deal with it personally.
How do you decide? Who decides on what to test? And then how do you decide what the test should be?
So we have a process that we do every year where we look at all of the information that's out there in the published literature from the CDC, FDA, We talk to the laboratories that we work with and we ask them, what do you see coming through the door that may be kind of like under the radar, but we should be looking at? And so we do our first cut at risk. What is the riskiest food out there? What is the riskiest liquid out there? And then we say, well, what is causing the problem and can we test for it? Because we have to be able to find a laboratory that does very good, solid testing work for us. Recently, we also started folding in a little bit of consumer interest. So what are consumers interested in? So we did a survey on social media earlier this year to say, if you were in charge of Consumer Reports, what food would you want to test? And so baby formula came up, right? Testing for microplastics came up. And so we take all that information and data. And then if you have a pet project, which I've had, because for instance, I really want to expand our market to a much more broader ethnic, racial, cultural market for Consumer Reports, also a younger audience, then you ask, what would the younger audience be interested in food and water, right? And so then we kind of put it all together and mix it up. And then we analyze the data and say, okay, we're going to test these 4 or 5 products this year. And we're going to test for these 4 or 5 contaminants. And then we also put a little bit aside for emergencies, like when the applesauce pouches were contaminated with cinnamon, lead, tainted cinnamon. We tested those. We went out and got as many as we can and we tested those. But that was because I put a little resources aside for emergencies. And then we just start doing our testing.
I love your rainy day. The rainy day fund is
yeah.
Oh my God!
But then there's
we
also,
know something. You know something is
going to come
months,
up. Yep.
Something's going to happen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. And so I just tuck away a little bit of money and a little bit of resources and say, okay, this just hit the news. Can we find it in the store? Can we get it to our lab? And all that. And so that's how the applesauce pouch testing came up.
There are legally allowed stuff in our food. I'm looking at some of the worst ones here. Brominated vegetable oil, potassium bromate, propylparaben, red dye number 3, titanium dioxide, all legal, all known to be detrimental to human beings. How is it that it remains okay for the continued use of stuff that we have proven is not healthy?
You have asked a very interesting question that is so confusing and perplexing. Let me take an example of the red dye number 3.
Yeah.
Okay? This is a dye, a coloring that is used to color candies such as the red Skittles or Peeps, etc.
Yeah.
And it is a dye that has been shown to be harmful. The FDA actually banned that dye out of cosmetic products such as lipstick 30 years ago. However, it has been allowed to be used as a food coloring. Now, if you get Skittles from the US, Skittles from Europe, the Skittles from Europe does not have red dye number 3. The Skittles from the US does. They use like fruit dyes and fruit extracts to color the Skittles, the red Skittles in Europe. And if you ask the manufacturer, and this was in our article too, they would say, well, the Europeans are more concerned about this. United States people really don't care about it. And so that's how you can have 2 different markets, which I don't understand. It seemed like it'd be more economic to have the same product here in the EU, but you have 2 different markets.
Yeah.
And so your governor actually banned red dye number 3 and 3 other chemical contaminants, not titanium dioxide, in California because we could not get any movement with the federal government, which would be our Food and Drug Administration. Okay, so you have manufacturers that say it's okay, and you have the FDA, which is very slow in regulating certain harmful contaminants, even with pressure from us like Consumer Reports and other consumer groups to try to get these chemicals out of our food. And so how is it allowed? Well, it's allowed because a long time ago, it was allowed with less scientific and public health information as to how harmful it could be. And it just takes a long time to get our federal government to move and get rid of this stuff from our food. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, unfortunately it does.
But so the question that backs into that question then, how much pushback do you get? So if I'm a manufacturer of this stuff and I have big money, I've got lobbyists up the wazoo that's saying this is not going to do anything. Look, I'm guzzling it.
Right.
Do you get, how many times a week do you get pushback, or a month or year, do you get pushback from anybody?
Any major story that is really trying to address a particular contaminant in food. I mean, let's use this as an example. I told you what the manufacturer's response was. But there was also like a not a smear campaign, but someone said, oh, you're trying to get rid of Skittles in the United States. And we're like, no, we're not, right? And so many times what they will say is we have a safe amount of red dye number 3 in our red Skittles. The problem is that I see is that, are you using the most up-to-date, reliable scientific information that really shows whether red dye number 3 is safe or not? And if you're not, if you're relying on the data from 20, 30 years ago, then I'm not sure you're telling the truth that it's still safe. Maybe you are, but can we see some testing data or some public health data that will tell us that it actually is safe?
So this is why
obviously the European countries did not think so, because they demanded that you get red dye number 3 out of their red Skittles. Dude. So maybe they know something that we are not accepting over here. I don't know what that explanation might be.
Well, along with that, I wrote this down specifically. You'll love this. None of the phthalates levels exceed standards set by U.S. and European regulators. So that's one statement. And then the next statement is scientists can't confirm a level that is safe. So in other words, we don't know how much of this crap you can eat, but we've determined that the level you can eat, that the level you can eat is safe right now. Well, if you haven't determined the level, then how can you tell me you can drive 80?
What if I eat 900 bags of Skittles a week? My exposure is probably...
again, probably not good, but we haven't determined that that's unsafe.
Right,
so it's that a game that's being played that we haven't determined the safe level, but here's a level.
Well, think of it this way. Let's take lead in food, lead in baby food, for instance. The people who are really, really on the food safety side, baby safety side, will say there is no safe level of lead in baby food, right? But it may be that the data will show you that we can bring it down, as close to zero as possible, but we can't get it to zero because of the way we grow our food and process our food. So this lowest level may be the best that we can get. And so maybe that's the level that we're going to have to claim. Now, I will say that Consumer Reports, other consumer groups, we advocate for a much lower level that is either already been set by a regulatory agency or has been suggested by others. We think that food safe level should be lower than is usually popular or is usually regulated right now. And so what you'll see if you look at our articles, for instance, we'll accept the Prop 65 levels from California and say they're much more healthier and safety based than the federal levels, right? And so when we do our analysis, we try to take the safest level that we can find in the literature or Prop 65 or other scientists that look at this and say, this is the level it should be. And it's usually much lower than what a federal regulatory level is.
If the electorate, the consumer, really got their act together and said, we want to advocate, create the pathway for these things to become either abolished or greatly reduced, what is the way? Is it boycotting products? Is it focusing on certain companies or industries? Is it making it a bigger issue among our elected representatives? What's the
hook,
the sort of best pathway to get a positive change here that doesn't seem to be coming any other way?
Well, I think it's going to be multi-level. One, when consumers are informed and knowledgeable and they can get information from us, from other consumer groups, vote with your dollars. Okay, if we show you that macaroni and cheese A has less phthalates than macaroni and cheese B, then buy A. Okay. Second is, as an informed consumer, write the companies and say, I saw this article in Consumer Reports that said, your macaroni and cheese is terrible in the area of phthalates. What are you going to do about it? So become an engaged and informed and active consumer. Third thing is, in every story that we have where we're finding something, we have a link so you can join a petition where we will, let's say for phthalates in food contact surfaces, you can sign our petition and we take that to the FDA and we take that to these manufacturers and say, you need to do something about that. Fourth, write your Congress people, right? And say, you represent me in the state of California, you need to do better. Fifth, what we found is that sometimes at the state level, you can have more success than you can at the federal level. And so I mentioned that your governor banned those 4 chemical ingredients in the state of California. We worked with your state legislator to get that done. Brian Ronholm, who's our director of food advocacy, was crisscrossing the country from DC to California to get that bill passed. And so work at the state level, because sometimes states do something better faster than our federal government.
Right.
And then I guess 6, and I don't think we have enough control over this, try to get federal representatives elected that are sensitive and are welcome to try to work on this food safety issue with us.
Good luck with that. By the way, before we go, don't wash your chicken?
Don't wash your chicken.
What? Don't wash your chicken?
Don't wash your chicken. So again, if you look at the data from the CDC, et cetera, if you wash your chicken, number one, you're not going to get any harmful bacteria such as Salmonella, Campylobacter off of it, because the bacteria go down into the pores of the skin and washing the surface does nothing. Number two, when you're spraying that chicken in the sink, you're creating a big cloud of mist that may contain salmonella in it. And if you have your salad greens next to the sink, it's going to fall into your salad greens. You don't cook them. Cooking's a kill step. You can get food poisoning from that. And number three, people are not as clean as they really think they are. There's a study out there where they looked at how many times did people wash their hands between fixing the chicken, fixing the salad. The numbers did not coincide. They said they washed their hands this much, but if you look at the video, they wash their hands, if at all, down here.
Wow.
So there is just no way to really wash your chicken safely, even though we got a lot of fire on that one. And I got a lot of flack where people say, I'm going to wash my chicken. My grandma washed my chicken. My mama washed my chicken.
You say it sounds dirty, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah. Not only did I hear wash your chicken, but I've actually think I read recently about washing your chicken with soap. Because no.
What are you taking a shower with you? Taking a shower with you?
I don't have to tell you what I do.
I'd rather you don't, because then I can't unsee it.
You don't need to know me.
But look at, okay, so wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
So James, you bring home a chicken to make, and you just throw it in the oven, that's it?
So what I do is I unveil it in the sink as gently as possible.
You unveil?
I take it out of the plastic
and you
bag.
poo-pooed me with in the shower. He's unveiling.
Do you have music playing? Dun, 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 dun. Okay.
I take that plastic bag or that plastic wrap. I immediately put it in the trash can. If there's anything like, sometimes you see that slimy stuff on chicken or whatever, I take a paper towel and I wipe it off.
And you yell out, I'm driving it down into the pores. Just patting.
Right.
Okay.
Just patting. You don't want
I
this.
understand. Right. You got me scared like crazy.
We don't want a cloud.
And you put it in your roasting pan. You season it, you cover it up, and then you make sure you wash your hands and you clean that entire surface area.
So after today with James,
warm soap and water.
Crap, my God.
Oh, now suddenly soap is okay.
You know what?
On my chicken, no good.
I'm buying all silicone. I'm getting silicone stuff, throwing everything out, and I'm getting a hazmat suit for my chicken. Because I can't. This is scary. It's crap. Why? I'm giving up chicken. If you can't wash chicken, organic.
I'll take your chickens. I got a lot of showers.
I'll see. How about organic organic versus inorganic? I always feel that, like, the organic vegetables are grown in the same field and the farmer's going wink, wink, nod, nod, and putting them over here. Yes, no?
No, a good organic farm follows the organic practices as outlined by the USDA.
Okay.
And so if it's a good organic farm, they make sure to separate the non-organic growing areas from organic.
All right.
It's inspected. They have to certify it.
All right. You're doing the finger in the hand thing. I got it.
Yeah, but realize, though, that between organic and non-organic, there is no difference microbiologically. So you can catch salmonella either way.
Mm-hmm.
Organic usually refers to how you grow that food based on fertilizers and only certain pesticides that are very specific. And so you avoid more pesticides eating organic, but you don't avoid most of the time the food safety issues such as bacteria or certain chemical contamination.
All right. And if there's a chicken being washed...
Kosher versus non-kosher, any thoughts? Halal, anything?
We haven't done that comparison yet.
Listen, I know food is your area. I'm going to ask one off the beaten track.
Here we go.
This is going to be like asking about the Kennedy assassination. 15 years ago, my wife and I brought a person into our house to go through and electromagnetic waves because the cell phone was changing brain waves in the human brain. A minute of holding the phone by your head would change your brainwave activity for 30 minutes. It was disaster. The cell phones are going to ruin the world. Put them down. Don't use them. Keep them 3 feet away. Anything? Anything on the cell phones? Anything?
Haven't seen anything, but stay tuned. There has been some discussion is there anything for us to test in that area? Because I do have product safety under my remit.
Yeah.
I just acquired them last year. I'm not as good as product safety person as a food safety person, but I'm learning quickly.
Good. And if it's not a problem for you, if you take a walk,
I also have a dishwasher that doesn't dry.
If you take a walk down the dishwasher hallway and maybe possibly refrigerator hallway, we'll get back to you in a couple of.
I have a brand new dishwasher. It does a nice clean. It doesn't dry a thing. Doesn't dry anything.
Do they get pissed off, James, when you go, I'm thinking of buying a hair dryer?
I also have a pool heater that breaks every year. Every year.
Oh, no. I mean, I'm in the market for a car, and we have our huge car testing track up.
And
that's one of the biggest issues that we publish is cars, and so I can call anybody up and say,
all right, we got your number.
We have Jane's information. We got the information.
All right, and it's a gift.
I'd rather you buy a membership to Consumer Reports.
That's what we should.
Let me tell you something. This is. I
it.
promise you, I have never not had a membership to Consumer Reports. My parents had it, and I continue to have it to this very day. It's a fantastic.
Director of Food Safety Research and Testing. Thanks so much at Consumer Reports. It is one of the best magazines, the coolest magazines.
It is
because also. You're completely independent. When you're testing toilets with the balls, you got to buy the toilets and the balls, right?
So just like you would, we go to Home Depot or Lowe's or wherever, and we get.
And
them.
you buy it, and then you give the report, and then you get pushback from lobbyists and from
By the way,
companies.
are we talking ping pong balls, tennis balls?
Oh my God! You with the toilet balls,
marbles.
You know what? Can you send him some photos, will you, James, so he gets off my back with the toilet and the balls thing? Wow.
Okay, I'm in Yonkers in about 3 weeks.
Good.
And I will show you a couple of pictures, or they could be on the website of them testing toilets.
Testing the balls.
I can't wait.
And by the way, what's interesting, they also down the other end of the hallway.
When you say it sounds dirty. I don't know why.
The other end of the hallway, they're testing underwear, which is actually testing. That's different balls that they're putting in there. James, thank you, and I apologize. No, thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it. And thanks for what you do.
It was great, and it was fun. Thank you for having me.
Fun, but also serious. What you do is really important. So we were wonderful, weren't we?
Yes, I enjoyed myself.
But since it's testing, scale of 1 to 10?
8.5.
Well, let me tell you, he's a very learned man. He's a very nice man. He does very important work. I'm washing my chicken. And if my wife insists, I'm going to wash it with soap. And you know what else? When you come over, you're going to eat it. What do you think of that?
I think I'm no longer coming to your house because there's a cloud of uncertainty.
There's no cloud coming out of it.
You know something?
I never heard of that. Don't wash your chicken.
We had the guy on for a reason, and then
let me ask you.
Whoa. And then he tells you one of the most important things in there. This is why I close.
If he said I should jump off a roof, I should jump off a roof.
Pretty much.
I don't have to do everything he says. He's not the boss of me.
You know what I love? I think one of the reasons that we're best friends is how you embrace information.
New information and change. Yeah. Well, I question. I'm a questioner. Nothing wrong with being a questioner. He said the salmonella could go into the pores. What if I take the skin off? If I unveil my chicken, and I remove all the skin, now there's no pores.
You know what? I know you. You and Dana turn your kitchen into an operating.
First of all, the whole thing's a fest, so we don't cook.
turn your thing into an operating theater with seats above, and you'll deal with the chicken the way you do.
Sterile, scrub.
You know what I'm doing? I'm buying cooked chicken, so the person's dead already.
Just don't get it in plastic.
Oh my God, we have so
Can't
many
get it in
plastic. We have
Come on.
so many plastic containers.
We're dead. We're dead.
Do you know how many plastic containers we have?
Of course, you have the same I do.
I don't know. I married my wife, God bless her. You know, we have the Tupperware equivalent of every size, by the way. And the other week, while she was out, I decided I'm matching lids to bottoms because
that's a fool's errand,
dude. Because I was opening the door and things were falling on me, and I was like, I could never watch. Right. So I did that, and then I started throwing out the little yogurt containers that she cleans out and saves, like a
jelly jar.
Like a grandparent.
Yeah.
The only thing she's not cleaning out is like the bags, like sealable bags. It's like, throw them out. But I said, do you realize we can never, if we live to 100, we can't use half of these that you are cleaning. What will we be putting at some point in the future in these containers?
Right.
There had to be 200 lids.
If I have 4 blueberries left over, I'm putting them in a Dannon yogurt, sealed, cleaned out.
Greek yogurt containers from 8. I think I looked at it.
Boy.
Some of the dates, the expiration dates were the 60s. That's how long she's been saving these things. So then we have 1,000. I'll get rid of like 200, and she'll come in and go, did you throw out some of my containers? And I go,
containers.
Yes, Madam Curie. What are we doing? Are we going to be doing testing with this? What do you need 1,000 containers for? So let's say I die. The new husband, is he going to embrace this? Are you leaving them to our children? I've never seen that many containers. But guess what?
Amazing.
Guess what I'm doing today? Throwing everything plastic goes out.
Well, you know, Dana, this is a big thing for Dana. She's really freaked out by this. And understandably so.
I am now freaked out by this.
And here I am thinking, I'm good. I'm using the microwave plastic stuff to make my oatmeal, and I'm killing.
You look on the bottom; it says microwave safe. You put it in the thing.
Yeah, it says microwave safe.
And now it is. It's
safe for the microwave. It's bad for me.
Only part of it melted into the egg. I do this every day. I'm dying. I'm dead. I am dead.
Yeah.
My spatula's going.
But you know, they don't know yet. I think they don't know. We don't have the research yet on. Okay. We're eating a credit card every week, but is that a bad thing?
By the way, now I know
where
my credit card is.
Laurie, we were joking about defining it in your penile tissue, but okay. Is it bad?
Laurie, I think on this, we were looking at merchandise for items to start selling in store, hats, t-shirts.
Yeah.
Silicone. I think we do silicone dinnerware.
Spatulas,
because I'm throwing out the amount of stuff I'm going to be, and I wonder what happens if I go home today and go, all right, we recorded this episode. I'm throwing it out. If she will now, like Joan of Arc, you're gonna have to get by me to get to the yogurt containers, or if she'll willingly go along, or I have to wait till the episode airs and she listens to it, and then I'll tell her this, and she'll go, no, we're not doing that. And then 6 weeks later, I'll come home, everything's gone. She said, wow, I listened to the episode about the containers, and I thought that's what it took, a stranger.
Yeah.
Mr. Rogers.
When you said it, it's no good.
No good. So I'm really, that's horrible. That's horrible news. I'm so depressed now, and I gotta wait till the sun goes down and my wife goes to sleep, and I'm gonna put on a black hood, face paint, and try and get rid of all the plastic stuff without her tackling me to the ground.
And I'm going the minute I get home. I'm going to the pool table. I'm gathering up the 1 through 9 ball, putting it in the toilet, and see what goes down.
Have a good time with that, and I got a good plumber for you. Everybody, thank you for joining us on Really? No, Really.